There we go. All right. So everyone should see the three blue pie charts of the Gimmal Records monitor screen out there. If you don't, raise your hand and let us know. But as Marcia said, I'm just going to go through some things today about kind of managing the inbox, hopefully to make it easier for you if if you're doing disposition, if you've got, hundreds or potentially even, 1,000 things hitting your inbox. How can you manage that more effectively versus just having to kind of scroll through and find what you're looking for? So we'll show you a few things. We'll open it up at the end for questions, and hopefully you may know some of these things, you may not. Maybe you'll learn some new ways to kind of work with them. So let's start out by going to the dispose section. And so in Gimmal Records, I'm logged in currently as myself here. I'm a global records manager. So, I'm kind of just, one notch below the system administrator. I can basically do everything from a record standpoint. I can see everything. When I go to the dispose area on the ribbon here, it automatically takes you into your disposition inbox. And this is where I'm going to see every record that I have disposition authority for. By default, it paginates things 10 records to a page. I'm just going to set that to 50 so I can scroll through. You'll notice in the bottom right, it gives me a count of the number of items in my inbox. So I have 36 items that I have disposition authority for. And that's kind of an important distinction. Disposition authority means I can approve whatever stage of disposition this record is at. Those are the things that I see in my inbox. That is not every record in the system that may have hit its expiration date in a particular life cycle phase and needs expiration. You'll notice there's another option here called expired records. Well, as a global records manager, if I go to expired records, I actually see all of the records in Gimmal Records that have hit their expiration date, even records that I don't have disposition approval for. If you're not a global records manager, you're a records manager, or you're a user that maybe has approval permissions on a record class, you only see the records that you have the rights to view. But you'll notice in the expired records, there's actually 41 items total. So there's 5 more records out there that I don't have disposition authority for, even though I'm the global records manager, right? So you can always go to expired records and you'll be able to see all of the records versus the inbox being the records that you can approve for their stage of disposition. Okay. So that's one distinction. The next is, all right, I've got 36 items. What if I had 360? How can I come in and start doing things like filtering and changing the view of my inbox? Well, you notice the column headings across the top. This is the default view of the inbox. If I hover over record class or if I hover over expiration, you notice how the cursor changes. These 2 column headings are sortable. So if I click on record class, I can do an ascending or a descending sort and quickly reorganize my view. Same thing with the expiration date, right? So that's one way to quickly kind of jump to the top or the bottom of the inbox if you've got a large volume. Just switch it around, do a descending sort versus an ascending sort. That's one option. The second, and this is an option that I really like, is the ability to use filters, right? So maybe I want to come in and I've got records. Let me just kind of stretch these out. You'll notice you can stretch the column headings out a little bit, give yourself a little more room to view things. Maybe I want to come in and I want to quickly view all of my records that are in my file share that have been classified and are sitting in my inbox from my file share. Well, on any of the column headings, you see the 3 little ellipses here. If I click the ellipsis and I go to this filter column, I can come in here and there are, just depending on the column, right now it's just equals to, but I can type in file system and it's going to filter the source column on that criteria, and now it only shows me 5 records. Those are all the records that are sitting out on my file share that I have disposition authority for. So I've quickly filtered the view down to just a small number of records. Maybe I want to do the same thing, but now I want to do this for SharePoint Online instead. Now I'm viewing 28 items. You notice the source is SharePoint Online. You'll also notice 3 of these don't have sources. That's because these are record case files. The record class was designated as a case-based retention. And if we look at the records in the case, it's showing me the records that are in SharePoint Online that are part of that case. Okay. So you can always use filters, and you'll notice if I do have a filter applied, the ellipsis will show white. So that way I know that there's a filter in use. Nothing would prevent me from then also coming in here and filtering, maybe based on the action. Maybe I only want to see things that are up for dispose and delete. Maybe if I had records that were eligible for transfer, I could filter by action as well and only see my transfer records. So it's a way of cutting down on, what I'm looking at, and then I can take action on those records as I need to. The other thing that I really like is you can add, let me turn that filter off real quick. So we just hit clear to remove it. Right, and now we're back to our normal view. The other thing that I really like is Gimmal Records captures a lot of information about your records, right? All of the properties that we capture, like location information, system information, metadata information, you can actually display that information in the inbox view as well. So again, if I click on any of the ellipses, there's another option here called columns. And when I come in here, you'll notice it shows me the columns that are currently displayed. Well, I'm going to hide phase because I don't care about the particular phase of the life cycle, but I do want to add the folder name that the record is in. So I've added some additional properties here that we can turn on for display. So if I select folder, now my folder is here, and I'm actually going to drag folder over here right next to source. Actually drug it one too far there. And now I'm just going to drag that out a little bit. And so now not only do I see the source system that the source repository the record is in, I see the folder in that repository. And for SharePoint records, if the record is just sitting in a library, that's also going to be equivalent to the library name. If it's in a folder in a library, it'll be the actual folder name. So I've added an additional column here. Now, how did I get that list of columns, right? Where did that list come from? Am I dependent on my system administrator to do that for me? Well, the short answer is no. So if I go to the settings menu, and let's just open that in a new tab. In settings, there's this option for both global preferences and my preferences. My preferences is exactly that. It affects only me as a user. Any user of the system will be able to see this. You can add any property that Gimmal Records has captured, whether it's one of the properties that starts with an @ symbol, like a system property or a SharePoint property, or whether it's a metadata property. So even your custom metadata that Gimmal Records is capturing off your records in SharePoint or Box or other systems, you can use that as a property to view. You notice I added content type as one of my properties, right? So if I set it for my preferences, it's only available to me. If your system administrator sets it in the global preferences, those columns will be available for everybody. But that's where that list of columns comes from, right? So maybe we want to come in here and we're going to turn off folder, and we're going to add content type. So we're going to say, I want to see the content type for all of these. Here's my content type. Let's drag that over next to the source. And now let's come in and filter this to just a view of SharePoint Online records. And don't talk and type. There we go. So now I've got a view showing me only SharePoint Online records and showing me the content type, right? I've quickly, narrowed this down, and now maybe I want to come in and filter the view by the content type to only see employee files or only see document types, right? So a quick way to manipulate the view, and if you really like a view that you create and you want to be able to reuse that view, you come in here and you click the Create button at the top. You give it a name, you save it, and now it's in your list of saved views and can be reused just by clicking it from the pull-down menu. Right? So a quick way to manipulate the view of your inbox. Now, the nice thing about that is once I've done that, well, now I can come in and just start picking and choosing records to take action on. Now, if you've done disposition before, you know the simplest way to approve disposition of a record is to come over here next to a record, hit the pull down, click approve and submit, type in your comment, and click confirm. My inbox was just decremented. That record disappeared from my inbox, and Gimmal Records is now reaching out through the connector to dispose of that record from its repository. If I want to approve disposition of multiple records, well, I can come in here and I can actually click the checkbox for multiple records, and I can use the buttons across the top. You'll notice the buttons across the top and the pull-down menus share a lot of the same commands. You can use either one, but when you're doing multiple selects, use the buttons. I'm going to click approve. It's going to ask me, are you sure you want to approve 4 things? I'm going to say yes. And now they have a check mark next to them. They have not been submitted for disposition yet. They're simply in an approved state. I can keep working through my inbox. I could come up here and switch my view to a different view and work with some different records. But when I'm done, let me put that back to 50 here. When I'm done and I'm done selecting all of the records that I want, now I want to dispose of all 4 of those records. I can just click the Submit Approval button, type in my comment, confirm it. Again, my inbox is decremented. Those records are removed from the inbox and submitted for disposition processing. What if I want to work with a whole bunch of records at once? If I click the checkbox, it selects an entire page of records. So if I put my page view back to 10 items, it selects 10 items. And if I hit approve, it will approve 10 items. If I set my page view to 50 and I hit that button, it will select 50 items. Okay. So that's a way you can, again, by filtering your views and using the page button, you can grab a whole page of records at once. If you really want to get crazy, select your entire inbox. Okay. Use that one sparingly, but there may be times when you want to do something like that, right? And if you accidentally do that, you can actually you can deselect it as well. So be aware of that one. And the last thing we'll kind of hit on here, what if I'm looking at a record and I'm not sure? I'm just like looking at this record and I'm not sure if this record really should be disposed of or not, this administrative record. Well, there's 2 things you can actually do rather than just move it forward in the process. The first is coming over here and hitting pause, right? I can hit pause from the pull-down menu, or I can come over here and just select the button, and I can hit the pause button here. What pause does, when I hit pause, I can put in a comment, waiting for some feedback. I hit confirm. The record disappears from my inbox and my inbox is decremented. However, the record is not submitted for disposition. When you create your retention life cycles in your file plan, there's an option in the lifecycle phase that allows you to put in a pause duration in a number of days. And so when I pause a record for disposition, it is effectively being set aside, moved out of my inbox, and paused for however many days the retention life cycle for this record class tells it to. So maybe I've got a whole bunch of records. I'm waiting on some feedback from the business owners. I'm going to pause everything in 901.1 for the week pause period. It would move it out of my inbox. In a week, they're all going to show right back up again, right? They're going to come back up and need processing. It doesn't stop disposition. It just pauses it. The second option is to actually reject a record. So let's come in, and this record here is marked for transfer. Well, again, maybe I've clicked the link and I've looked at the record. Maybe I've come in here and, I've viewed the properties on the record, and I'm still just not sure, and I want to get Marcia's feedback. Well, what I can do is I can select the record and I can hit reject. And when I reject the record, put in my comment, again, the record disappears from my inbox, but this time it's moved into a special area called rejected records. And when I go to rejected records, as a global records admin, I can see everything here. If Marcia has privileges on all these record classes as a records manager, she can view them, or as a global records manager, she could view them. But here's our transfer record. It's now in the rejected records area. Marcia, I can send her a Teams message or shoot her an email or actually pick the phone up and call her. And ask her, hey, take a look at this and give me your thoughts. And now she can look at the document. She can view the properties and see what's going on. She can look at the audit trail and we can make a decision. And if we ultimately decide, that this is okay for disposition, we can reinstate it. Rejecting it suspends the disposition. Doesn't change the record class, doesn't change the life cycle. It just suspends it, right? Now, at any point, if I reinstate it, I can, looks okay for Marcia. We can move it back, and now it goes back to my inbox. And it's somewhere back here in my inbox. If we do a quick sort, there it is. It's back in my inbox, back where it was in its life cycle, waiting disposition approval. Okay. So rejected records can be really, really handy. It's not a permanent rejection, right? They can always be reinstated, but it's a way of setting things into a special holding area so they can be reviewed by one or more records managers. All right. So those are the things I wanted to touch on today that, hopefully will make your life a little easier when you're dealing with large volumes. One last tip I'll give you, if you need to test disposition, an easy way to do that is create a record class. In my case, I have one called Gen 01 or 901.1 immediate disposition. And your life cycle for that record class should just simply be created date for the trigger, a 0-day retention, and dispose and delete as the action with approval checked. That way you always have a record class you can assign something to that will immediately populate your inbox for you. And that's how I kind of seed the inbox for my demos, and I'm able to do some quick testing with new record classes and stuff. So just a little tip for you if you need if you're kind of in deployment or testing some new things and need to test the process. So with that, I think we're going to open it up for questions. I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dane. That's great. We do have a couple here. So I'm gonna did not share earlier, but I'm gonna right now. Hang on. Okay. So we do have a question. One is from, is there a way to search or only filter?
There is, the filters we show, there is a way to just filter. There is the find button up here. Pardon me. So maybe I wanted to quickly just find everything that's related to marketing here.
You want me to stop sharing my side, Dean? Is it easier to show?
I should still be sharing, right?
No, I'll stop my video or I'll stop my share.
So the find button up here will search the inbox primarily on the record title and just return things that match your search. You know, filtering on a column will give you the filtering that we showed.
Apologize, I can't stop my share. Let me try that. Okay, there we go, back in business. Dean, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We have a few questions actually. Second one is how to see what has been approved, like similar to like Gimmal Physical, where we see the items in red color text.
Great question. Let's see if I have some here. Yep. So here's a record class, and in a future education session, we're going to talk about some of the finer points of the file plan management, and one of those is approval workflows. For any record, you can always come in again to the pull down, and you see approvals here on the pull down. If you click approvals, it will tell you how many approvals are needed on that record before it's actually disposed of. This record just has one approval. So when I approve it, it's off for disposition. HUM09 happens to be a record class that I set an approval workflow up on. So if we come in here and we click the pull down menu and we hit approvals, here you see that Roger Records approved this record earlier today. So he was the first level approver. I'm in the second level approvers group. So it's in my inbox, and once I approve it, we know that it's now going to be submitted for, in this case, dispose and delete, right? So the clicking on the pull down lets you see any previous approvers or if there are approval steps after your approval in the process.
One more, Dean. Where can we find the records that were paused?
There's actually not an area here where you can see that. I will take an action item to look and see if you can view that through a report. Because it's actually not exposed here. They are just set aside. It would be nice to maybe see, you know, another item here, which was paused records. So great question.
You make a note so we get that. Terrific. Let me check one other spot. Yeah, I think that's it. Great job, Dean. Really appreciate it. Thank you everybody for attending today. We hope you enjoyed this. As we mentioned, the demonstration, this is recorded, so we'll be sending out the meeting recording soon. So please be on the lookout for that. As a reminder, these education sessions are going to be offered twice a month, and it's going to be across our three main products, Gimmal Records, Gimmal Physical, and Gimmal Discover. Feel free to join any session even if you don't utilize the product. Maybe it's something in your future plans. Our next session is scheduled for Tuesday, January 30th at 1 p.m. And that one's going to be focusing on our Gimmal Physical product. If you have any additional questions or topic suggestions that you would like to see for one of these sessions, feel free to send those to myself or at success@gimmal.com. Wait, one more. Oh, we have one more question, Dean.
Okay.
When will the one on, I understand what this is. I will get with this Bessie on this question. Sorry about that. So that's it. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.